Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
Hey there fellas, let me share with you a story that took place right in front of my eyes at one of the retail cell phone stores I manage. Believe me, this tale of sweet revenge is something you'd find worthy of your time. So this all happened just a few hours ago. I run this store and you know how it goes with these places. We have these demo phones out for customers to mess around with. The funny thing about these phones, they are locked down, worthless pieces of plastic and can be used as real phones. But every once in a while we get these dimwits who stroll in thinking they can just snatch one and make a quick getaway. Well, today was one of those days. It was a typically quiet afternoon. We usually have 1 or 2 employees on the floor, and this day was no different. One of my guys was on lunch break, so we had only 1 employee minding the shop. And then in walks these 2 dudes. The first guy starts acting all interested, asking questions about our phones, playing the role of an eager buyer. The second guy, on the other hand, was checking out our demo phones, but in reality he was planning to swipe one off the security stand. Now my employee was no pushover. As soon as he saw this guy trying to take one of our demo phones, he turned and gave him a hard look. But this thief was not one to back down easily. In a flash, he grabbed the phone and made a run for the door. It was unbelievable, I tell you. But here is where it gets interesting. My employee, the hero of our story, did not hesitate for a second. He lunged at the thief, tackling him right there in the doorway, and the 2 of them went down in a tangle, trading punches like it was a street brawl. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. It was a scene straight out of a movie. The scuffle continued just outside the store, with my employee doing his best to hold on to the thief. Meanwhile, the other guy was frantically trying to pry the stolen demo phone from his friend's grasp. It was chaos, and I was torn between calling the police and rushing out to help. But fate had a little surprise in store for our would-be thief. As they wrestled on the ground, something remarkable happened. The thief's pocket gave way, and out tumbled a set of car keys. My employee, quick thinking as ever, seized the moment. He grabbed those keys, sprang up, and dashed back into the store. With trembling hands, he locked the store's door and called the police. It was a real adrenaline-pumping moment, I can tell you that. The thief, probably realizing he had just lost round in this unexpected fight, made a run for it, leaving his body and the stolen demo phone behind. The cops arrived shortly after and they were in for a bit of a surprise. They checked out the demo phone and had a good laugh, knowing it was as good as worthless. But the real kicker was what happened next. They used the car keys my employee had so brilliantly snagged to locate the thief's 2016 Honda Accord, parked just a few blocks away. I couldn't help but smile as I watched that car being towed away. The thief might have walked away with a silly plastic demo phone, but he lost a valuable asset in the process. It was a beautiful twist of fate, and justice was finally catching up with him. The story doesn't end there though, my friends. The cops had an easy time identifying the thief thanks to the security cameras in the store. They put out a warrant for his arrest, and I have no doubt they will catch up with him soon. So yeah, there you have it, a tale of sweet, sweet revenge that unfolded right at my store. I can't help but chuckle every time I think about it. The thief thought he could outsmart us, but in the end he just made a fool out of himself. And I'll always remember the look on his face when he realized he had lost his precious car keys. It was a small victory, but it sure felt good. So here's to my quick-thinking employee, to karma catching up with those who deserve it, and to the satisfying feeling of justice being served right here at our little cell phone store. So this all went down when I was around 14 or 15 years old. My mom had hitched herself to this guy who had a son from a previous marriage. A dude in his mid-20s who lived life like a wandering hippie. We'll just call him Step Bro for now. Now Step Bro and his gang would make a pilgrimage to our house about once a year. They would roll in, do mountains of laundry, smoke enough weed to fill a hot air balloon, and basically treat our place like their personal commune. They even managed to forget they left the gas burners on once, which could have been a fiery disaster. But let me rewind a bit and set the scene for you. I was your typical teenage girl, completely obsessed with my clothes. On that day, I had a pile of laundry sitting in the dryer, and among these were these amazing corduroy pants that I had only worn once. I adored those pants. They were like my secret fashion weapon, making me feel cool whenever I put them on. So imagine my shock when I walked into the living room and saw Step-Bro proudly parading around in what can only be described as a shabby cape. My eyes narrowed and I immediately recognized the material. "Are those my pants?" I exclaimed, dumbfounded. Step-Bro, always a calm one, looked at me and shrugged. "They were in the laundry, man. You know, like finders keepers." I was beyond furious. Those pants were expensive and they were mine. I expected Step-Bro's dad, my mom's husband, to step in and do something about it, but nope. He just sat there unfazed. My mom was angry too, but she tolerated these annual invasions to keep her marriage intact. Now, I was hell-bent on revenge, but Step-Bro had nothing of value due to his bohemian lifestyle. Then, I remembered overhearing my parents having a heated argument a few weeks prior. My mom had mentioned that Step-Bro had fathered the child a couple of years ago and he hadn't contributed a single penny to support the kid. In fact, he hadn't even bothered to see the child since it was born. A wicked idea began to brew in my teenage mind. The next day, while my parents were at work and Step-Bro was lounging around listening to music or something, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I picked up the phone and dialed the police, and my heart raced as I told the dispatcher that I knew of someone who might have a warrant out for failing to pay child support. The dispatcher, seemingly unfazed by my youthful voice, asked for the name of the person in question. I gleefully provided Step-Bro's name, and after a brief pause, they confirmed that there was indeed an active warrant for his arrest. I gave them our address and hung up. 20 minutes later, the police rolled up to our house and I welcomed them inside and led them straight to Step-Bro, who was still blissfully unaware of my cunning plan. "He's right there, officers," I exclaimed, my smile growing wider by the second. They promptly handcuffed him and escorted him out to the waiting police car. I couldn't contain my satisfaction. He was finally getting what he deserved. Step-Bro's dad, my stepdad, couldn't come up with the bail money fast enough, so Step-Bro had to spend the night in jail. An hour later, my mom called the house. She had found out about Step-Bro's arrest through his phone call to her. I eagerly spilled the beans, recounting every detail of my scheme. She whispered, "Good job," but then pretended to loudly scold me as she was my stepdad. Step-Bro's night in the slammer made me smile for weeks, and just so you know, my mom eventually divorced that guy. She found herself a genuinely nice man, making him husband number 4. Edit: I never did get new pants to replace the one Step-Bro turned into his bizarre cape. He had cut them up, sewed them together with some other fabric, and maybe even used a hot glue gun in the process. The guy was high pretty much 24/7, so who knows what went on his creative mind. Oh, and that wasn't the only terrible thing he did to me. He tore down my posters, accidentally set my comforter on fire while I was away at summer camp, and even let my dog loose, thinking it was a great idea. Just like his own dog. That was probably the worst thing he did to me personally, considering how much I loved my furry friend. To give you some context, my mom had already gone through 3 marriages before meeting her 4th husband, the nice one. So yeah, our family was a tad dysfunctional, and as for marriage, well, let's just say I'm not a big believer in it for obvious reasons. I haven't seen Step-Bro since that incident, and I honestly don't know if he's still alive or what he's up to these days. And after he got bailed out, my stepdad handed him some cash and he disappeared from town. As for the little girl whose father I helped get arrested, I hope she turned out to be okay. Her mom was also part of the same rainbow family as Step-Bro. After the pregnancy, she went back to live with her own parents, probably trying to distance herself from the chaotic world Step-Bro inhabited. So yeah, that's the tale of the corduroy cape and revenge that brought me some sweet teenage justice. It still brings a smile to my face even 20 years later, to think of Step Bro being hauled away in the back of a police car. Sometimes karma comes in the most unexpected forms, and on that day it was delivered by a teenage with a grudge and a sense of justice. I live in a co-op community where disabled and non-disabled folks coexist, and I recently found myself in a tricky situation that's left me wondering if I'm that jerk in the scenario. So here is the story. I came up with this pretty nifty idea called a peer support/help exchange roster. It's a concept where residents can help each other out, fostering a sense of community and togetherness. Sounds good, right? Well, I thought so too. My co-op buddy and I thought it would be a great idea to pitch this concept to our fellow residents. We scheduled a meeting to share our idea, gather feedback, and maybe even secure some funding from our social fund, which we all chip into at the beginning of the year for group activities. Now, the day of the big meeting, my wheelchair decided it was a perfect time to give up on me. My battery was on the brink of quitting and I could barely move. To make matters worse, my co-presenter and I had agreed to show up 15 minutes early to set up. But thanks to my slow-moving wheelchair, we were running late. By the time we finally reached the meeting room, the meeting was on the verge of starting, and there I was, stuck outside. My co-presenter, who was walking ahead of me, did not hold the door open or give a helping hand. She let it slam shut in my face. Ouch. I gestured for her to hit the O2 door opener, which was on her side of the door, you know? One of those buttons that makes life easier for people like me. But instead of lending a hand, she pretended I wasn't there and didn't say a word to anyone inside about me being stuck outside. She told everyone that I couldn't make it because of my wheelchair problems. So when I finally found someone to help me open the door, people were finally surprised to see me there. Imagine their faces when I finally rolled in, trying not to make a scene. Later on, my co-presenter confessed to me that she did it on purpose. She said, "Why would I tell them? You already made us late. I wasn't going to allow you to disrupt the meeting any more than you already did." To be clear, we weren't actually late, we just weren't early. It took me a mere 45 seconds to join the group once I got inside. She even admitted that she wanted to replace me with someone else because my wheelchair hiccup had frustrated and annoyed her. Now, you might be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just one meeting, right? But here's the thing. The project we were working on is all about advancing accessibility and being good neighbors. And all the ideas were mine. I asked her not to use the language and materials I produced, and her response was, "I'll use whatever language I please." She even went so far as to call me deluded for thinking that people wouldn't understand why she couldn't let me attend the meeting. But here's the kicker. Anyone not using a wheelchair could simply stroll into the room. I was the only one she could have kept out in that manner. Now, I am left feeling pretty upset about this whole situation. It feels unfair and underhanded, and I'm torn about what to do next. Part of me wants to let our other neighbors who attended the meeting know about what she did. But another part of me thinks that's pity because it all happened months ago. She only just admitted what had happened. And I still did get to attend most of the meeting. So dear Redditors, I'm at a crossroads here. Am I the jerk for wanting to expose her bad behavior even if it means potentially damaging a project that could help other people with disabilities? Should I swallow my pride and try to work things out with her to salvage some hope of progressing a cause I genuinely believe in? I'm eager to hear your thoughts and advice on this situation. Thanks for lending an ear or an eye in this case, and I look forward to your input. And now some comments on the post. Someone saying, "You're not the jerk. You need to tell people. It's completely fine to be petty if you were disrespected to that degree. We need to call out bad behavior and put a stop to them before it gets worse. Everybody wants to avoid conflict, which will enable that person's behavior even more." Another commenter adds, "Not the jerk. This is some of the worst ableist bullying I have ever heard. People need to know. She weaponized the inaccessibility of the space against you in a meeting about accessibility. If this happened in a group of which I was a part, I would absolutely want to know. Your co-presenter should have no part in this group. Appalling. The third commenter goes with, "You're not the jerk. Your neighbor is very wrong for this. I can't even imagine the ignorance of someone that would allow the door to close in your face intentionally. I think you owe it to yourself and your community to let it be known what she did and how she spoke to you later." The reason I say that is because this woman is clearly not the right person to be involved in a project such as this. I believe she wants to have control of the project simply to be in control. She has shown she's not that caring about the people who will benefit from the project, and I strongly suspect that she will go out of her way to ensure that the only benefits to be gained are ones that she approves of or puts in a good light. This happened a few years ago now when I, 22 female, was 18 and still living at home. My mother, then 65, was and still is a raging narcissist and a control freak. In a way, I can't really blame her since she grew up practically looking after her siblings, but it's something that's slowly destroying our family life. I was diagnosed with high-level ADHD when I was 19, which explained a lot of difficulties growing up. But this is a backstory to why my mother is terrified of me touching her stuff. My mother had this hatred for things not being done her way, to the point she would go through her friends and family's trash to rip up posts and stuff with names on, because people will find your address if they look through the bins. If they are looking through my bins, they are already outside my house, so I don't think they need my address, to be honest. But she would move everything of mine, put it away in places it doesn't live, shove it in bags, go into my room to try to tidy it away, and I lose things, break things, don't have enough clothes out, and so on. It was endless, and I was growing angry. My father is an enabler, so he would always defend her even when he knew she was wrong. What tipped the scale was a seemingly normal day. When I cook, I usually clean a little as I go along, but do the bulk after I finish eating. Every single time, without fail, as soon as I touch the chair to eat, she'd be in the kitchen screaming about how it's so dirty and no one does anything in this house, and then there's smashing pot sounds and noises of anger. We've all just gotten used to tuning her out mostly. When I take a shower, I always dry myself, head up to my room telling them the bathroom is free but not clean, and then get into new clothes, quickly blow dry my hair and moisturize my face, and head down to clean up the bathroom. But during this, we usually start hearing screaming, shouting, comparing herself to a slave, no one respects her house, and so on and so on. Every single time she wouldn't even need the bathroom, she'd just enter it to complain. This time, however, she brandished my shampoo bottle in my face, screamed about how if I didn't put things away fast enough, I was in my room maybe 10 minutes, then she kicked me out because she was fed up of tidying everyone else's stuff up. No one asked her to. After she's been on her feet all day at work, she logs books on a computer and she refuses to retire. Cue malicious compliance. For 4 long weeks, I put everything away, and I mean everything. Everyone else's stuff got put away and put on their placemats. I moved things around to their proper places, I put things away when she was mid-using it, work stuff she left lying around got put back into her pile of papers, her clothes dumped outside her room, blankets folded and stacked when she went to the toilet, spices and foods back on the top shelves. My mother is around 5'2", so she struggles to reach things sometimes, whereas I'm 5'9", so can easily pop things out of her reach. Also bottles, jewelry, glasses, pots, pans, everything was put away. For some reason, I loved it. It seemed to scratch an itch in my brain whenever I got bursts of motivation to do it. It took a month before she basically told me to F off doing it. She'd lost multiple things, kept having to call for help reaching stuff, sort through her papers and ask me where I moved things. All I said to her was, "Do you see how annoying it was now?" and closed my bedroom door. I moved everything back the next day when she was at work and she thankfully stopped nagging. Well, for the most part, that's a progress. One day I was busy buying groceries and the like, so I parked in this one parking spot and not even 2 seconds later this guy pulls into the space next to me. I soon got out of my car, a Hyundai from 2008 Powder Blue secondhand. This dude shoots out of his car and scrambles to where I am. Looking around in my car, he finds nothing wrong with it. His car was a Mitsubishi Triton complete with front and rear bull bars. Something wrong? I asked him. No, I just thought I may have scratched your car. Sorry for that, just kinda in a hurry. This dude had the nicest attitude you'd ever expect from someone built like John Cena, but to me, he seemed like a teddy bear with muscles. I go about my shopping and he does the same, not paying any mind to the strange events that happened just now. So I finish my shopping and when I get to my car, I find I have been parked in by a silver Toyota Corolla, not the new one. I can see that the woman is still in the car, so I put my groceries in the trunk of my car and tap on her window. Winding it down, she glares at me with the eyes of a typical Karen. Can you please move your car? I want to go home now.
Well, you can wait. Didn't anyone teach you manners?
I was now agitated. At this point, I was not really in the sharpest mood, but this woman just snapped at me as if I was a dog. I didn't wait too long as the same man was seen pushing his car toward his car. The minute he got to his car, Karen sprang into action.
Do you have any idea how long I waited?
Karen asks him. And you are?
I don't feel the need to tell you my name. Get out of this parking spot now.
Well, you can wait. As you can see, I still need to pack my stuff.
You can do that later. I need this parking space.
At this point, he was visibly annoyed by how this Karen was acting. Lady, firstly, who gave you the right to speak to me in such a manner? Secondly, I don't see your name on this parking spot. Rule of law, first come, first serve.
I have been parking here for 2 weeks, therefore, this is my parking space. Now move, or I will move you.
He scoffs and says, I'd like to see you try. At that moment, Karen decided to mess with him and she pushed him. I say push, but more, it was like pushing a brick wall. This guy did not even budge at all.
That was a warning. Don't make me call the cops on you. A delinquent like you will not survive.
She tells him, Was that your best shot? He asks amusingly.
Like you can do better.
Very well, let me show you my shot. And for your information, I'm a former Special Air Service. At this point, he looked to see me standing there very patiently, walking over to me, then he cleared his throat and said, I'll see to it that you get home and sorry for what you're about to see. He climbed into his car and started it up. She didn't even get the chance to move her car. Throwing his car into reverse, he slammed into her car and began to push it out of the way. Karen freaked out as her car was being pushed out of the way, banging on a dude's head. She threw verbal insult at him. I was already in my car before he started his car up and began this whole thing. Finding a big enough gap for myself, I did expert driving and began moving out. And now Karen slams her hands on my hood.
You're not going anywhere. You're now a witness. You wrecked my car.
I tell her I didn't see anything, and I drove off. For your information, I haven't received any court summons or anything like that, so that veteran put Karen in her place and wrecked her car gloriously.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.